Is in the studio Dr. Todd Adkins, Mississippi Asthma and Allergy Clinic, and also Andrew Mims also with us. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Morning.
Good morning.
Music specially for you guys
I love
here
that.
because it's a runny nose type of ear. The pollen, is it ready for us? Is it coming through?
Absolutely. This is the time of the year when we are wide open busy. Trees are pollinating. You can look on your car. Lots to see out there right now. Exactly.
Is the green stuff that coats everything? We've had this conversation for years. I'll ask you. Is that contain a lot of problems? Is it real allergenic as far as that? Some people have said, no, that's from pine, and it doesn't have the reaction as
That
others.
actually is correct. A lot of what you see, what the pollen you're seeing right now is tree pollen. Pine pollen is very heavy, and actually, even though pines are pollinating, people do get sick when the pines pollinate. It's usually the other tree pollens that are much smaller that actually cause a lot of the problem. But there's oak pollen and just other stuff like that that's out there. That is what you're seeing. It's tree pollen, and a lot of people are having trouble.
Pollen,
Yeah, a lot of it.
All right, let's talk about this though, because there's always new medication that comes up every few years, and things that are working, not working. Some things work on some people and not on others. So, just some healthy tips there of what we can do.
Well, when it comes to allergy, there's three basic things you can always do. The first thing is we try to avoid what we're allergic to. Now, this is pollen season, and if you're allergic to pollen, there's no way you're going to avoid that. That's just
Not in our
practically
state, no.
not going to happen. That's right. The second thing is we use a variety of medications, and I would say just for your regular allergy sufferer, the most common things really actually not so much new stuff is just using the old stuff and using it really proactively if you could. And nasal steroids like any of the topical nasal steroid sprays, you can get them over the counter. They're excellent. They work a little slow, so the key there is to use them really every day as a preventive medicine. And then there are a variety of different antihistamines you can use, and really just the key is just to do it and do it regularly, and really it helps a lot. Now, we have people that have been doing that, and they're not where they need to be. The medications haven't worked, or maybe the medications have worked, but they just get tired of taking a lot of medication. So another option is doing things like allergy shots. Allergy shots literally turn off your allergy to make you like a non-allergic person. And so people who've suffered for years can get relief from that, and it really does make a big difference in quality of life for those patients.
Let me go back and ask two questions on this one. Number one is, when you're taking those medications over the counter or prescribed, and you say they do work, but you got to give them time, how many days do you think it takes before it kicks in?
Well, a lot of people take antihistamines, and they do feel some kind of immediate relief, and they like that, and so they kind of tend to stick with that. The nasal sprays, in particular, like the topical nasal steroid sprays, people use those, and they don't really feel a lot of immediate relief. And yet, if they use those medications, they're actually more effective than the antihistamines. But the key is with those, just to realize it may take 2 or 3 weeks of regular use to really notice a huge benefit.
Ooh, so you take them early.
And a lot of people do it on demand, and if you just wait till the last second, you're already very symptomatic, it probably doesn't work as good. But if you stick with it, if you just start nasal steroid spray, antihistamine, and do it really regularly, you will have benefit, fairly quickly. So the key is just regularity of use.
And the other question was, how old is too old, or is there a date where shots are not going to work?
Well, honestly, shots can work at any age. Really, if you look at the extremes of age, below 2 years of age, you don't have a lot of kids that are actually allergic. Most allergy occurs kind of after that. And so we usually withhold testing roughly till around 2 in regard to like inhalant pollen allergen. As we get older, say 50s and 60s, the likelihood of allergy goes down a little bit, and a lot of people have other things like non-allergic or vasomotor rhinitis. But
it hasn't worked on me.
Well, I was going to say there's exceptions to the rule. I've seen people who are in their 90s who are clearly big-time allergic, and so it's kind of a case-by-case basis. That's why we test. If we test people, we know.
Ray is from Long Beach, and he says, how effective are nasal flushes?
They definitely help. And when you say nasal flushes, I assume what you're talking about is saline nasal rinses. Now, they can be good because just like any saline rinse, they provide a little bit of decongestant effect, and they can help. And so, yes, they can be effective. The big thing, though, that I would stress to people is when you use real medicine like the topical nasal steroids, that is considered first-line therapy. You just got to make sure if you do a nasal rinse that you literally don't rinse out the medicine that you put in. You can rinse your nose and then use a nasal steroid. That's fine. But those medications are really very good. The key is to just start them early enough and use them regular enough.
You find any differences between over-the-counter name brand and generics?
Not really. They are the same medication for the most part. And frankly, when we write prescriptions, it really doesn't matter what we write. You have to write what insurances pay for, and they are going to pay for generics for the most part. And you really can. You can get over-the-counter medications that work just great. I mean, they really do. But again, the key is to the regularity of use. But no, they're really the same medication.
When you look at some of the top name brands, do you have name brands out there that you specifically?
Yeah, well, we have used, medicines like Flonase, topical nasal steroid, been around for 1 million years, or the generic form, fluticasone. You got antihistamines like Zyrtec or Zizal. They're really good, and they help. And combination therapy using nasal steroid and an antihistamine, just that alone, and then some. If you have eye problems, which a lot of people that have allergy do, things like Pataday, you can get that over the counter. So these are some just easy to take over the counter medications that really do make a difference if patients, step it up and use it really regularly.
Dr. Tom Adkins, Mississippi Asthma and Allergy Clinic, is the guy next to you a patient also? Andrew, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
Andrew is our controller. He is our business person, and he has been very busy lately because this is our time of the year. So we're in full swing right now.
We are.
Scheduling everybody, is that it?
It is. We're trying to get people in. He's handling all of that stuff, fortunately making it very easy for us right now.
Good to have you. I do want to ask you this couple of things. One from the C-Spire text line. Is it true that over-the-counter allergy medications affect your blood pressure?
Well, the answer is yes for some products. The thing is this, antihistamines, pure antihistamines do not affect blood pressure, neither do nasal sprays, nasal steroid sprays, or nasal antihistamine sprays. Decongestants do, okay? And we don't really recommend that people take decongestants on a regular basis for a couple of reasons, because they can increase blood pressure, and they can cause, if you have other underlying health problems, it's probably not a good idea to take them on a routine basis. The other thing is if you take decongestants all the time, you literally can become a little bit tolerant to them, and it's better to use those on demand. And certain people just shouldn't take them.
A couple of brand names that we're talking about.
Well, the thing is this: if you look pseudoephedrine or Sudafed or anything that says D on the end of it, that's got a decongestant in it. So we like to use those for short-term benefit for sure, and they do help, particularly if you have congestive symptoms, and lots of people do. That's one of the worst symptoms that people have.
Yeah. A million years ago, I had to stop taking those because of heart palpitations.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, this is before they found out about that.
Right. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
When you say the antihistamines and some of these non-drowsy, is that possible? Because I can't take one without getting drowsy, even the non-drowsy. It may be psychological, but when they say non-drowsy, does that really work, or are some people sensitive to that?
Well, like every medication, there's a wide variety of responses. What they look at is, if you look at some of the traditional like antihistamines like Benadryl, the sedation rate for those is upward of 60%. So people are sleepy, and a lot of times people take it for that very reason because they need to sleep at night, right? So, but some of the newer ones, like, for instance, Zyrtec, sedation rate around 14%, Zizal sedation rate's around 4%. And then you have like Claritin and Allegra, the sedation rate is around 2%. So it's very low, and that's kind of close to what you'd find in placebo. But I promise you, people are all different, and they do respond to medications differently. So there are some people that are sleepy on all of them. That's correct.
Also getting information here on if you have a baby and you think maybe that they have got some allergies or a toddler, how early, and can you hang on for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Let me get back to Dr. Todd Adkins, who's Mississippi Asthma and Allergy Clinic, and we were talking about not only the youth out there, but even the babies and toddlers. What's the earliest you can kind of define that there may be some allergy problems? And I guess you could lump into that food allergies as well.
Well, if you're talking about nasal symptoms like pollen allergy, most of the time we start testing that around 2 years of age. And the reason is if you have a child that's coming in with nasal symptoms and you test for things like trees, grasses, weeds, dust mites, there's not a lot of allergy. It's a kind of a low probability test under 2 years of age. Now, again, there are exceptions. Things like dust mites or animal danders, we might test even younger than that. Now, when it comes to food allergies, those literally can start just from extremely early life. We have kids that have reactions to a variety of foods like milk, eggs, peanuts, soy, wheat, things like that. So we do that testing based on, of course, symptoms very early on. That is definitely before 2 years of age. But from a standpoint of pollen allergy, nasal type symptoms, you just don't see a lot of true allergy before 2 years of age in that regard. We do see a lot of, infectious stuff before that age, like sinus infections, colds, and that sort of thing. Very, very common.
Is there any recommendation as far as how do you do this? Because I know new parents, and certainly if it's the first child in the family, they worry about accidentally eating a peanut and all hell breaks out. Is there a way to kind of get your child to be immune to that, feed them peanuts early, or how do you do that?
Well, actually, that's a very good point, because there used to be a thought that kids should avoid certain foods early in life, and that was kind of the recommendation for years. But what they've actually found is, particularly like with peanut, early introduction actually protects you to a large degree. So the thing is this: we don't really hold back in that regard. We let kids eat those foods earlier, and really it does probably provide a bit of a protective effect. That's right.
How long does the regimen of shots last, Doc?
Well, okay, so typically what happens is when you start shots, you go through a build-up phase where you're doing it weekly, and that lasts for a few months. And then you reach what we call a maintenance phase. And usually by the time a few months into it, patients really know they're better. They know that they're getting relief. We get to a maintenance phase, and then we can space shots out to once a month. Most people, when they get on a maintenance phase, will do it 3 years, maybe 4 years, like once a month. And the reason we do that is because if you go that long and then you stop, your likelihood of having a relapse goes down. Basically, the longer you take shots, the less likely you are to have a relapse when you come off of shots.
But if you stop with the shots 3 or 4 years, is there any evidence it returns?
Well, it does in some people, but it's not a high percentage. It's actually a fairly low percentage, and so it's you have to take a kind of calculated gamble when you decided to come off. But most patients, we see a lot of, like, for instance, parents bringing their children in. They took allergy shots when they were a kid, and that's just never come back, and that's, I'd say, quite common.
Yeah. I think people are always amazed at how many people move here from other parts of the country and also the world. We're not immune to that, and people are always surprised, why did you move from Colorado to here? But a lot of people do. Is there, if they have allergies and they have a regimen there, or if they don't have allergies, is moving at a new geographical location play into this whole narrative?
It absolutely does. Mississippi, I kind of say in allergy, we're like Alabama in football. We're at the top every year.
Yeah,
and the truth is,
we don't need that. But
well, it is. It's just things grow well here. So there is heavy duty pollen. So we're always at the kind of top of the list in terms of the impact on people. So when people come from a place that doesn't have this kind of exposure, they get worse. They come. I hear all the time they say, I came to Mississippi, I've never had allergies this bad, and that is really, really true. They're telling the truth.
Well, the other thing, too, is when you, and another thing that surprises people, where 65% of our land in the state of Mississippi is forested. A lot of people don't understand that. But you get to the Mississippi Delta, and it's a drastic contrast. Is there a difference there than other places in the state?
Maybe a little bit, but to some degree, frankly, we go through, like right now, we're in tree pollen season, but grass is already starting to kind of pollinate, and grass is terrible in Mississippi.
Really?
Yes, it's a really.
Well, you don't see the blooms and everything.
Well, you don't. It's extraordinarily small pollen, so you don't actually see it, but it is actually probably the worst.
So when you're mowing your lawn, a mask is probably a good idea.
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt. That's a fact. Absolutely. And I would make
what
sure
type of grasses are worse? Watch you name mine. So
well, we have one that's fairly unique here, Bahia grass, but you got Johnson grass, Bermuda grass, lots of different kind of grasses
But
here.
those are not lawn grasses, are they?
No, not necessarily, but they're around, and you see they're out there. And the thing is, grasses are so cross-reactive that if you're allergic to one grass, you're really allergic most of the time to all the grasses. And so grass pollen season, when it hits, it is just terrible here, and it really goes, kind of starting around now, and then it goes basically through the summer for the most part, and then dies off in the fall. And then we have weed pollen season. So
if you're putting in a garden or something, are there some plants that you really need to stay away from?
Well, the good news is, if you're talking about flowering plants in particular, that the pollen is too heavy to really cause a problem. So a lot of times when you're talking about planting flowers, those are insect pollinated plants. But trees, grasses, and weeds are things that are pollinated just by airborne breeze, and not by insect pollen. But things that are insect pollinated, like the flowers and all, they don't cause a problem from a pollen standpoint. Now, they do have strong odors that sometimes can aggravate people. That's true.
Mississippi Asthma and Allergy Clinic, it's Dr. Todd Adkins. Taking my cue from bees that don't sneeze. What about honey?
That is debatable. I think there may be some effect. I would say this:
how much honey do you have to suck in?
I don't think there are a lot of good controlled studies on that. What I would say is, relatively speaking, okay, if you're talking about beneficial effect, really stick it with the basics like nasal steroid sprays. Medications are going to give you a lot better effect. You just have to kind of do it for a little bit.
Some people swear by it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get
I
the
won't say
local
there's no
honey,
effect, but yeah.
Well, it's sweet to try it.
Yeah, well, that's right. It doesn't. You don't stand much to lose there. Absolutely.
Is it one of the areas of medicine where you can't get a medical marijuana card?
I haven't given one out so far.
Are you allowed to?
Maybe I am. I don't know, but I've never tried it for allergy.
I'm thinking about that. That would be kind of weird, wouldn't it? Because
yes, I would be scared to do that personally. I would not. Yes, no, I would not do that.
Leave it to me to ask that question. The brain is uncontrolled. Anything else that you want to mention? Any other tips before we leave?
Well, I would just say that a lot of people, put up with misery that they don't have to. Okay, there's good therapy available, and people can really have a good response to just you doing a few simple things. And then people that have more bad their allergies are pretty bad, we got stuff for that. We get allergy shots are really fantastic. So a comment I hear all the time is people say, I didn't really realize how bad I felt until they got better, because they've just lived with it so long, and when they finally do get treating it better, they just their quality of life is just so much better.
It's a very good point, because what are some of the symptoms that they may be feeling that they have no idea it may be attached to that allergy?
Well, a lot of people in particular will have congestion or sneezing or itching, and what happens is has secondary effects, though. When you look at like sleep, for instance, if you look at one of the biggest reasons people have disrupted sleep is allergies. Their nose is not working right. They're just uncomfortable. When you're in bed and you're uncomfortable because you can't breathe and you've got drainage and you're itching, people just don't rest very well. And so they wake up and they just feel terrible going to work, and they're clogged up and they're groggy, and they just didn't rest well. So one of the things that I think surprises a lot of people, when we treat their allergies, they rest better, they sleep better, they wake up feeling better because they actually can breathe through their nose and they're not having trouble when they're in bed.
The other part too is the scratchy eyes, and I guess that gets worse as the season gets worse.
Yeah, well, it's bad right now. I mean, it's this is the time of year. We kind of go from 0 to 60 very quickly, and it's here. We're in the season.
Prepare yourself.
Exactly.
Dr. Todd Adkins, we thank you, sir,
very
much
much
for coming in and
imparting
all of that information. It was good info. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.